My name is Alina Vance, and I used to live for the quiet hum of time, for the gentle click and whir of gears working in harmony, for the precise tick-tock that promised order and continuity. I was 32 years old, and my world was the inside of Timeless Gears, my grandfather's clock shop in Oakhaven. The shop was more than just a business. It was a sanctuary, filled with the scent of aged wood, brass polish, and the faint, sweet smell of forgotten memories. I was a clockmaker and restorer, self-taught mostly, with hands that seemed to understand the intricate souls of these machines better than my own heart. People often said I had a peculiar way with old objects, a sixth sense for their hidden stories, especially the clocks. I could feel their history, their joy and their sorrow, echoing in their chimes. I loved Oakhaven, even as it slowly withered, its main street lined with empty storefronts like missing teeth. I saw beauty in its decay, a kind of peaceful melancholy. What bothered me, what truly pricked at my soul, was the way people dismissed craftsmanship, the way they forgot the value of things built to last, things that told time without the need for glowing screens. My nemesis, though I didn't know it then, was about to arrive, cloaked in promises and the shiny veneer of progress. It was Bethany, my childhood best friend, who reappeared in Oakhaven like a sudden storm after years of absence. She had left Oakhaven a decade ago, chasing city lights, and now she was back, not as the shy girl I remembered, but as a sharply dressed, ruthlessly ambitious real estate developer. Her eyes, once full of youthful dreams, now held a calculating gleam that made my skin crawl. Bethany had a grand vision, she said, for Oakhaven. She wanted to buy up the entire Main Street, including my beloved Timeless Gears, and transform our sleepy town into Oakhaven Estates, a bustling, quaint tourist destination. She promised it would bring prosperity, new life, and make us both rich beyond our wildest imaginings. I was hesitant, deeply protective of my grandfather's legacy, of the history embedded in every plank of wood in the shop. I valued tradition, not flashy newness. But Bethany was persuasive. She appealed to my love for Oakhaven, my quiet longing to see it thrive. She promised me that Timeless Gears would be the cornerstone of her development, preserved, even enhanced, a historical gem among the new shops. She spoke of a special clause just for me, ensuring my spot, my heritage, would remain. Against the uneasy flutter in my stomach, against the cold shiver that ran down my spine when she talked about modernizing everything, I signed the contract. It was a thick stack of papers, legal jargon blurring before my eyes, but I trusted Bethany. She was my friend, wasn't she? I pushed down the growing unease, the feeling that I had just given away a piece of my soul for a promise. The problem I had to solve was how to trust my friend and protect my past, but I had no idea the true extent of her betrayal or the cost I would pay. Bethany's true intentions began to unravel faster than a loose spring in a clock. Her promises of preserving Oakhaven's charm turned into an ugly mockery. The old, beloved diner was replaced by a sterile coffee chain. The dusty antique store, a treasure trove of forgotten trinkets, became a brightly lit boutique selling overpriced souvenirs. Historical buildings, many of them older than the town itself, were demolished without a second thought. Bethany renamed the entire project Oakhaven Estates, a soulless name that stripped away every ounce of our town's identity. My heart ached with every shattered window, every falling brick. Then came the news that plunged me into a cold despair. Timeless Gears, my grandfather's legacy, the very heart of my existence, was not being preserved. It was being torn down, Bethany announced with a sickening smile, to make way for a luxury condo complex, the Chronos Tower, a name that felt like a cruel joke given my life's work. I confronted her, my voice trembling with a mixture of anger and disbelief. I reminded her of our agreement, of her solemn promise to protect the shop, my heritage, everything. Her laughter was sharp, devoid of any warmth. "Oh, Alina," she said, her eyes glinting with triumph, "you were always so sentimental. Read the fine print, darling. There's a clause allowing me full control over all properties once development begins, including the right to repurpose or demolish." My blood ran cold. The contract, that stack of papers I hadn't truly read, trusting her blindly, was an iron cage. I had been completely swindled, my shop, my inheritance, my entire legacy ripped from my grasp. Bethany merely shrugged, a dismissive gesture that felt like a slap. "Progress demands sacrifices, Alina," she said, turning away, leaving me standing amidst the dust and rubble of my shattered dreams. I tried everything. I consulted every lawyer in the nearest city, but they all said the same thing. The contract was airtight. I pleaded with the few remaining townsfolk, but they were either too afraid of Bethany's growing power, or they had already been bought off, their silence purchased with promises of new jobs and modern amenities. I tried to salvage my precious tools, the most irreplaceable antique clocks, but Bethany's construction crew, under her strict orders, blocked my access. They gave me a mere few hours to grab personal items before the bulldozers moved in. I watched, helpless and hollow, as the massive machines tore into timeless gears, the grinding metal and splintering wood echoing the shattering of my own life, the sound of my family's history being erased. It wasn't just a building falling, it was generations of purpose, of passion, reduced to dust. I lost my home, which was above the shop, I lost my livelihood, and I lost all faith in the good in people. I retreated to a small, rented room on the desolate outskirts of town, the phantom ticking and chiming of vanished clocks haunting my every waking moment. My once steady hands now trembled incessantly, my heart a hollow chamber where only despair echoed. All was truly lost. But in that profound emptiness, a new, cold resolve began to take root, fueled by a rage so deep it felt like it vibrated through my bones. I had nothing left but my rage and my unique, almost mystical, connection to time itself. I remembered a particular clock, one my grandfather had called the Chronos gate. It wasn't a clock in the traditional sense, but a tall, dark, ornate grandfather case that had always been unfinished, its internal mechanisms a terrifyingly complex jumble that grandfather believed could do more than just tell time. He whispered of a peculiar, almost sentient energy within it, a hungry, ancient power. The Chronos gate was lost in the demolition, swallowed by the insatiable greed of Bethany's machines. But during one of my last, desperate attempts to retrieve anything from the wreckage, I had managed to snatch a single, intricate gear. It was small, crafted from dark, unknown metal, and etched with a serpent devouring its own tail, the Ouroboros, a symbol of endless cycles. This single gear became my anchor, my focus, my terrifying idea. I began to craft a new mechanism around it, not a clock that measured time, but something else entirely. I worked in secret, in the dim light of my rented room, fueled by a chilling, almost manic focus, my sanity fraying at the edges. I scrounged for discarded fragments from the demolition site, splinters of wood from my old workbench, shards of glass from broken clock faces, rusted springs, all imbued with the sorrow and violation of their destruction. I built a device, not a beautiful timepiece, but something twisted, grotesque, and undeniably potent. It hummed with a dark energy, a vessel for my vengeance. I learned that Bethany was hosting a lavish, grand opening gala for Oak Haven Estates, a celebration of her triumph, on the very spot where timeless gears had once stood. The new building was a gleaming, soulless glass-and steel monstrosity. On the night of the gala, I became a spectral figure, draped in the darkness of my grief and driven by a singular purpose. I intended to infiltrate that gala, to activate my device, not to harm Bethany physically, but to make her feel what I had felt, to strip her of her time, her future, her very present. Under the cover of night, I slipped past security, my heart thrumming a frantic beat, a counterpoint to the ticking darkness I carried. I found a hidden access panel in the foundation of the new building, a place where the old ground still touched the new, and there I placed my device. It was a twisted assemblage of salvaged parts, centered around the salvaged Ouroboros gear, pulsating with an unseen energy. As Bethany stood on a makeshift stage, delivering her triumphant speech to a crowd of oblivious investors and sycophants, her voice echoing through the sterile new plaza, I pressed a single, almost invisible button on my device. There was no explosion, no physical violence, nothing that would alert the unsuspecting guests. Instead, the air around Bethany and her immediate surroundings shimmered, almost imperceptibly. Then the guests nearest her began to freeze, their movements becoming erratic, jumpy, like a skipping record. A woman raising a champagne glass repeated the gesture, then rewound slightly, then repeated it again, her smile caught in an endless, horrifying loop. Bethany, mid-sentence, suddenly sputtered, repeating words, then whole phrases, then rewinding back through her speech, her actions playing in reverse. The entire gala, slowly at first, then faster and faster, began to loop. People relived brief moments of joy, then confusion, then terror, trapped in infinitely repeating, shrinking temporal loops. Bethany was caught in the most vicious cycle of all. She was forced to relive her moment of triumph, her sickening smile, then the sudden realization of my betrayal, then the cold, unfeeling demolition of timeless gears, all playing in reverse, over and over again. Her memory fractured, her mind breaking under the relentless strain of continuous fractured existence, her triumphant laughter turning into a horrifying, endless stutter. I watched, my heart a cold stone in my chest. I had not destroyed Bethany's life, no. I had stolen her time, her future, her present, trapping her in a perpetual, agonizing echo of her past deeds, of the very destruction she had wrought. The consequence was exquisitely poetic. Bethany, who stole my time and my future, now had no time at all, only an endless, fragmented present. The Oak Haven Estates project did not collapse physically, but chronologically. The looping distortions spread, affecting everything Bethany had built, trapping developers, investors, and anyone who had profited from her destruction in their own personal, temporal prisons. The new Oak Haven became a ghost town of temporal echoes, a horrifying warning, its modern buildings shimmering with unseen temporal distortions, the screams and laughter of the trapped fading in and out of existence. Eleanor Vance, however, was untouched. I walked away from the chaos, a strange, hollow peace settling over me. I returned to the outskirts of Oak Haven, to my rented room, which now felt less like a temporary dwelling and more like a true refuge. I slowly began to carve and whittle again, but no longer clocks. My creations were intricate, complex devices that measured something beyond time, something that hummed with the residual energy of the Chronos gate. I found a strange, new purpose, a silent guardian of distorted time, forever marked by what I had unleashed. My new normal was one of quiet contemplation, of understanding the subtle, terrifying ways that time could bend and break. I knew I had changed, that the gentle clockmaker was gone, replaced by something colder, something that understood the darkness inherent in the flow of time. All loose ends were tied, the greedy had their just deserts, and Oak Haven was forever scarred, a monument to a revenge that transcended death itself. But sometimes, late at night in the deepest silence of my new workshop, I hear a faint, almost imperceptible ticking. It is not from my new creations, nor from the echoes of my old life. It sounds like the endless, frantic ticking of 1,000 broken clocks, echoing from the ruins of Oak Haven Estates, a chilling reminder that some wounds, once inflicted upon the fabric of time, can never truly heal. And perhaps my own time, my own existence, is now inextricably linked to the distorted fate I wove for Bethany and for Oak Haven itself, making me a part of the horror I had created.